Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh passes away at 92. National mourning announced. Prime Minister Modi calls him one of India's most distinguished leaders. South Korea's opposition files an impeachment motion against acting President Han Duck-soo. Vote in favor of 3 nominees of the Constitutional Court judges. Pakistan's military court sentences 60 more civilians for taking part in pro-Imran Khan unrest last year. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in the Veer Bal Divas program in New Delhi, recalls valor and sacrifice of the Sahibzadas. India's former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and veteran Congress leader has passed away in New Delhi. He took his last breath at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi on Thursday evening. He was 92 years old and was ill for a very long time. A distinguished economist and a statesman, Dr. Manmohan Singh served 2 consecutive terms as Prime Minister, leading a coalition government under the Congress-led UPA or the United Progressive Alliance from 2004 to 2014. He was the architect of India's economic liberalization in 1991 as Finance Minister in the P.V. Narasimha Rao government. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was born on the 26th September 1932 in the Punjab province of undivided India. Dr. Singh earned a first-class honours degree in economics in 1957 from the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. He also completed DPhil in economics from the Nuffield College at Oxford University in 1962. And Aditi Tandon, associate editor of the Tribune, is back with me once again. Aditi, before we took a short break, we were talking about Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy. For the viewers who are just joining us, what would you say was Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's legacy?
Singh's legacy, of course, the highest point was he ended India's nuclear apartheid by signing the Indo-US civil nuclear deal and seeing it through in 2008. He also presided over some very landmark reforms, including the Right to Information Act that his government passed, the Right to Education Act that was passed. He also ensured, Mahatma Gandhi Narega was passed to give poor people their guaranteed livelihoods. The farm loan waiver that he first granted, on the eve of 2009 Lok Sabha election, was in fact widely seen as the reason that he was re-elected the Prime Minister. And that was the first time a major farm loan waiver was announced in the country. So his legacy is also huge when we look at the agrarian sector. I think these were the high points of his time as Prime Minister.
His career. Let's look at, he's held various public positions like he was the governor of RBI, he was the deputy chairman of the Planning Commission. But in political career, his career really begins as the finance minister of the country under P.V. Narasimha Rao, and a man who affected the 1991 economic liberalization, which in many ways, more than one, changed the very politics of this country, changed the face of how this country's politics was run. How would you look at that?
Yeah, he had an illustrious career as a teacher, as a family man, as you said, as a public servant. He joined the Indira Gandhi government in 1971 in a small capacity in the finance ministry, and later goes on to become the chief economic advisor In fact, it was way back in 1971 that he started arguing that India needs to look outward when it comes to economic policy and not have such a, stringent license Raj. So his 1991 reform, the seed of that reform was actually sown way back in 1971, which was, of course, the era of nationalization under Indira Gandhi. And Manmohan Singh had to wait several decades before he could realize his dream of pushing India towards, the path of economic progress. So, yes, several awards to his credit, a distinguished economist the world respects even today, amazing body of work, a huge legacy across institutions. Like you said, he was a chairperson UGC also, he led the RBI, so he was finance minister. I mean, look at the number of hats he donned during his long and illustrious life. So people will remember him for various things. In fact, he was essentially an academic and began his life as a teacher in the Punjab University of Chandigarh,
Yeah.
from where you are, I think.
Yeah, both of us have studied there, yes.
So we are proud to share our, academic legacy with Dr. Manmohan Singh.
That's right. So, how difficult or easy was it for him to usher in the economic reforms? We do understand that P.V. Narasimha Rao, he had P.V. Narasimha Rao's political backing, but still it was a country which was essentially a socialist country, a country run by licensed Raj, a country whose ethos were steeped into the government running everything right from the days we achieved our independence. How difficult or easy was it for the then Finance Minister Manmohan Singh to not just announce but effect that change on the ground?
See, of course, it must not have been easy. Just imagine those times of socialism, of left liberal ideologies where economic liberalization was not a popular term. So imagine the burden on the shoulders of somebody like Dr. Manmohan Singh, but also give the credit to the Prime Minister of the time, P.V. Narasimha Rao, who completely
Absolutely.
threw his weight behind Manmohan Singh. In fact, the legend in the parliament goes that Manmohan Singh had told Prime Minister Narasimha Rao that I will not join your cabinet if you do not allow me to pass the economic reforms, that is the precondition on which I will come. So it happened, and we also know that IG Patel was first approached by Narasimha Rao to become his finance minister. Something happened and that did not materialize. So in that sense, Manmohan Singh was perhaps an accidental finance minister, not so much as an accidental prime minister.
Okay. All right. Let's come to his role as the Prime Minister. How would you, or how would history judge him as the Prime Minister of the country for 10 long years when there was a lot of flux in Indian politics? The kind of mandate that we see now or in the past 10 years wasn't existing then.
Yeah, like we discussed earlier also, a range of, he was somebody who pioneered the concept of rights, the right to education, the right to food, the right to livelihood through Narega, the right to information. So ushering in a very transparent form of government. The only thing is his nemesis began after 2011, an anti-corruption movement that was led by Anna Hazare and his lieutenants, including Arvind Kejriwal. And that was the time when the government floundered big time. Now, we do not know why that happened. You remember that was a time for calls with respect to the Jan Lokpal bill. That was the first time it was the Manmohan Singh government that involved civil society in drafting of a legislation. Do you remember the Jan Lokpal bill was drafted by some government ministers and a group of Anna Hazare's lieutenants? So you see, all that happened, and all this apparently, I think, did lead to a path that was uncharted. And after that, it really exploded, and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh did not know how to get the control back because the narrative was just out of his hands.
Okay. Aditi, I understand you have to go, but one last question that I cannot let go of without asking you. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was the first was the Prime Minister from a minority community, the first Sikh Prime Minister from the Congress party, which had affected the Operation Blue Star, was looked at as the nemesis of Sikhs, if not whole of Punjab. How was he perceived then? How did the politics change? Because even hardcore Panthic parties like the Akali Dal, led by the late Prakash Singh Badal, announced support for him, saying that because he comes from the community. How did that play on the political arena? Because you covered the Congress for a very, very long time.
See, what I understand of the Sikh community is that they are a very forgiving people. You know, the fact that top Congress leadership apologized and regretted the riots, also Dr. Manmohan Singh did that. So the Sikh community, we know that Punjab re-elected Congress governments, time and again, not once, but so many times. So that is one thing that we need to remember, that the Sikh community, of course, was very hurt and, completely scarred by the events of 1984, Operation Blue Star, later the assassination of Indira Gandhi, later on the massacre of Sikhs in 1984. But after that, gradually, the Sikh community has come to, at least in the political front, move on. That is actually, I think, the resilience of the community. After people in the Congress, senior Congress people, regretted and apologized for the 1984 riots, which was actually a blot on the face of the Congress and something that should have never happened. Manmohan Singh, being the first Sikh Prime Minister, of course, the community owned him very proudly, continues to own him very proudly. And it was a defining moment in the parliamentary democracy of the country also, when somebody from the Sikh community got a chance to become Prime Minister in May of 2004.
Did it politically help the Congress?
I would not see it as a political sum game for the Congress. I think the decision by Sonia Gandhi in 2004 was simply one of, who was the most loyal to her at the time. And who
so
did.
It wasn't about him being a Sikh. It was about who would owe his loyalties more to her.
I think it was about who, in her wisdom, would steer a coalition politics well, where he thought Dr. Manmohan Singh was the best suited, which is something Pranab Mukherjee himself admits in his memoirs, that Pranab Mukherjee was in fact not an accidental Prime Minister, and he did prove himself to be a good Prime Minister by managing coalitions which were difficult to manage.
All right, we'll leave it there. Aditi, many thanks. It was very insightful talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us at this late hour. And India has announced a 7-day period of national mourning following the death of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, who passed away on Thursday night at the age of 92. All government programs scheduled for Friday have been cancelled. National mourning for 7 days have been declared. Cabinet will meet tomorrow at 11 a.m. The last rites will be conducted with full state honours. And President Draupadi Murmu has condoled the demise of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, expressing her grief on X. She said, and I quote, "Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh ji was one of the rare politicians who seamlessly bridged the worlds of academia and administration. In his various roles in public office, he made critical contributions to reforming India's economy. He will always be remembered for his service to the nation, his unblemished political life, and his utmost humility. His passing is a great loss to all of us. I pay my respectful homage to one of the greatest sons of Bharat and convey my heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, and admirers." India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar wrote on X, and I quote, "Deeply pained to learn about the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh ji, former Prime Minister and a distinguished economist who transformed India's economic landscape. His profound understanding of economy, gentle demeanor, and unwavering commitment to India's progress will forever be etched in my memory." In Dr. Singh's passing, India has not lost a leader of towering intellect and statesman par excellence. His legacy will forever guide Bharat's growth trajectory. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief on the demise of former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and shared his condolence on X. I quote, "India mourns the loss of one of its most distinguished leaders, Dr. Manmohan Singh ji. Rising from humble origins, he became a respected economist, held various important government positions, including that of finance minister, where he left a lasting impact on our economic policy. His interventions in Parliament were insightful and valuable. As Prime Minister, he made extensive efforts to improve the lives of the people. Taking to X, Prime Minister Modi further wrote, Dr. Manmohan Singh ji and I interacted regularly when he was Prime Minister and I was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. We would have extensive deliberations on various subjects relating to governance. His wisdom and humility were always visible. In his hour of grief, my thoughts are with the family of Dr. Manmohan Singh ji, his friends and countless admirers. Om Shanti. The Speaker of the lower house of Indian Parliament or Lok Sabha, Om Birla, also expressed his condolence on the social platform X. I quote, "The demise of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh ji is extremely sad. Apart from being an eminent economist and an enlightened politician, he will always be remembered for his gentle and simple demeanor. As an efficient administrator, finance minister and prime minister, he served the nation for decades. My condolences are with Dr. Singh's family in this hour of grief. I pray to God to grant a place for his departed soul at his feet and give strength to the bereaved family and the nation." And condoling the demise of former Prime Minister, India's Minister of Home Affairs Amit Shah wrote on X, "The news of the demise of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh is extremely sad. From being the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India to the Finance Minister of the country and the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh played an important role in governance of the nation. I express my condolences to his family and supporters in this hour of grief. May Vaheguru grant peace to his soul and give strength to his family to bear this grief." And India's leader of opposition in the lower house, Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, also expressed grief over the demise of former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. He wrote, "Manmohan Singh ji led India with immense wisdom and integrity. His humility and deep understanding of economics inspired the nation. My heartfelt condolences to Mrs. Kaur and the family. I've lost a mentor and guide. Millions of us who admire him will remember him with utmost pride." Okay, looking at some international news now. South Korea's political crisis is far from over as the main opposition party introduced a bill to impeach acting President Han Duck-soo on Thursday. The decision came after Han announced that he will not appoint justices to the Constitutional Court. The voting will be held on Friday, and this move could deepen the country's constitutional crisis, triggered by a short-lived martial law. More in this report.
South Korea's opposition on Thursday claimed that they filed an impeachment motion against acting President Han Duck-soo, and they will hold a vote on Friday. Leaders accused President Han of obstructing the constitutional process to remove his predecessor, President Yoon Suk-yeol, from the office. The decision came after Han announced that he will not appoint justices to the Constitutional Court until the rival parties agree for a political compromise.
Prime Minister Han Duck-soo officially announced that he would not appoint a Constitutional Court judge, which is his constitutional duty. His statement effectively acknowledges himself not as an acting authority, but as an acting authority of treason.
The opposition Democratic Party had threatened to impeach President Han if he does not appoint 3 justices to fill the vacancies at the Constitutional Court. Parliament voted in favor of 3 nominees on Thursday, but they have yet to be formally appointed by Han. However, South Korea's ruling People Power Party urged the opposition party to stop its attempts to impeach acting president.
The Democratic Party's deluge and tsunami of impeachments has now gone beyond paralyzing the government to completely devastating state affairs. What the Democratic Party seeks to impeach today is not the acting president Han Duck-soo, but the government itself, the livelihoods of the public, diplomacy, and South Korea.
South Korea fell in a political crisis when President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law on 3rd December. Yoon was stripped of his duties by Parliament on 14th December over the dramatic declaration. But a constitutional court ruling upholding the decision by lawmakers is necessary to complete the impeachment process. The court is, however, currently short of 3 judges. While it can go ahead with its 6 members on the bench, and a single dissenting vote would reinstate Yoon. At the same time, if the impeachment motion passed on Friday, Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok would step in as acting president. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.
Network suffered a cyber attack on Thursday, disrupting luggage services and delaying flights at the start of the New Year holiday season before being restored later in the day.
A regular Thursday morning in Tokyo took a dramatic turn as Japan Airlines became the target of a massive cyber attack. The breach began at 7:24 a.m. local time, disrupting both internal and external systems.
Yeah. It's like, what do I do? I wish the flights just kept to the schedule.
It's now so crowded in the airport. I've got children and I'm wondering if we can make it to grandma's house safely.
The attack, which disabled a critical router, caused system-wide malfunctions and forced the airline to suspend ticket sales for the day. Notably, the attack solely affected Japan Airlines, leaving other major carriers untouched. By afternoon, Japan Airlines had managed to restore its systems. The airline confirmed the attack was a deliberate attempt to overwhelm their network with massive data transmissions. Despite disruptions, no customer information was leaked, according to the airline's statement. This attack on Japan Airlines is not an isolated case. Cyber attacks have increasingly targeted key institutions in Japan. Last year, the country's space agency was hit, although no sensitive rocket or satellite data was compromised. Japan is far from alone in facing such digital assaults. In November, at least 8 US telecom firms were breached by Chinese hackers in a sweeping espionage campaign. In the month of August, 3 Iranian hackers were charged by the US for attempting to infiltrate Donald Trump and Biden-Harris campaign systems. While in June, Indonesia's national data center was crippled by ransomware, resulting in the loss of crucial immigration records. Back in April, El Salvador national cryptocurrency wallet Chivo suffered a breach, exposing over 144 GB of sensitive citizen data. While in March, a cyber attack on the African Union disrupted operations for over a week, affecting more than 200 devices. In February, the International Monetary Fund faced a targeted attack compromising 11 email accounts, while in France, a massive data breach affected 33 million citizens' health insurance information. In response to the growing threats, global efforts to combat cybercrime are gaining momentum. The United Nations General Assembly recently adopted a landmark treaty to enhance international collaboration against digital threats. However, as cyber attacks evolve in complexity, financial institutions and critical infrastructure remain prime targets. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched its OTT platform Waves. Download Waves. But that's it for the moment. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.